Welcome to episode 24. Is it 24? Is it already 24? It is 24. Episode 24 of In and Out of Character with me, Mr. Island, a role players podcast, and I am so happy that you are here with me for another week of talking with somebody in the role playing community. So, you guys know that I sort of left for a while, and I told everybody I'm just trying to get myself figured out, trying to get my life figured out, just trying to get the stars aligned so that way I can come back and do this. But one of the biggest reasons I did that is I listened to this podcast called A $2 Creature Feature, which I will, of course, leave links down below. But they are a Monster of the Week actual play podcast, and they were the first time I experienced anything in the Monster of the Week. And I remember listening to them and just hearing the camaraderie between the players and the DM, or I'm sorry, the keeper, Mr. Ray. And I thought to myself, I'm going to get in touch with them. I'm going to come back to podcasting and I am going to get in touch with them. And I am so happy to say that all of them are going to be on the podcast someday. I am so extremely happy to be able to talk to these guys. I cannot tell you. Please welcome Mr. Ray with me. Mr. Ray is the keeper of the podcast. He has an amazing talent for storytelling. And I'm just listen, guys.
I don't know if you listen to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. It's a really good interview podcast that he does with guests. And like, to call it an interview podcast, I don't even think it's accurate because it really just feels like a conversation between two people. And like, before like introducing everybody or anything, he does these like he does these intros with his producer and like talks about like what it was like interviewing them and talking with them and to kind of set things up. And then it like literally just goes right into it. And like, it's like their mid conversation. It's really a neat way to do it. And I really love it. So if you're, and it sounds like you're starting to head that approach. And if so, like, I love it. More power to you.
Oh, appreciate it. And you called it Inside Yourself? Is that what it is?
Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum.
Inside of You. I have written that down. Inside of You.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've ever seen like Smallville.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, Rosenbaum was the Lex Luthor on there. And so
oh, that guy. I love that guy. He was great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was incredible. And like I'm a huge fan of him as a person, just period, because like he's got like a rewatch podcast for Smallville now called Talkville, but like he started out just like doing this Inside of You podcast where he just sits down with actors and just like opens up about like, you know, their life, and it gets like very like, you know, therapeutic in a way, and you just get like a real appreciation for how people look at things, and they talk about their craft, and it's a really good podcast. Like, and it's not one like, you know, you have to listen to all of it. You can just, it's like, oh hey, I like this person, I want to hear what they say. And like, I didn't know he was really good friends with Dax Shepard and Kristen, I want to say her name's Kristen Wiig, but I might be wrong with that.
I'm going to have to Google both of those names.
Kristen Bell. My apologies.
Okay, I know who that person is, yeah.
Yeah, it like once you see them, you're like, oh, that's who they are. And like he's been around Hollywood for a while, and he knows a lot of people, and he gets into like some really interesting stories and stuff, and it's just a really cool podcast. It's a good one. I highly recommend it. I don't know if this part's even gonna make it into your final, but you know, anybody who's listening, this is my endorsement.
I will definitely add that little bit in just to make sure that people know about it, because I love listening to conversations that feel organic. That was the biggest thing about this, is that I never wanted anyone to feel like they were being put on the spot or anything like that. I wanted to just have a talk about how people got into it and like what their opinions are and what they plan on doing in the future or whatnot. Which is honestly one of the reasons why I love listening to your podcast so much. It sounds like you and the crew sound so organic. I've been listening to you guys since y'all first started. I think you were 3 episodes into not season 1, season 2. I've been listening to you guys since 3 episodes into season 2.
Oh, okay. So you got in whenever the getting was good.
Is that well? I went back and listened to some of the other bits. I haven't been able to listen to all of it because I've been trying to. Not. Oh, what's the term? What is the term? I've been trying not to play favorites. If that
Yeah,
makes
no,
sense.
I get it. And it's like, the podcast that you listen to would never know what order you listen to it in. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, you're like, I got to space these out just right. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to get into it, like, um, yeah, no, season 2 is like I fully endorse it, like as like a good starting point for coming into our show because like we had some change ups in our cast from season 1 and um we just all like really developed
Mm-hmm.
and found our place together between seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And you know you hear a lot of people talk about chemistry, and whenever Megan came onto our cast, like she was just like, whatever it was that just wasn't working out with us, like adding her in was just the bit that we needed. And everything just really just kicked off really well. She's just naturally comedic, and she just brings like such of a presence to the group, like just enough chaos, but there was enough chaos in the rest of the group that she sort of is also like the responsible one, and I love
Mm-hmm.
it.
Oh yeah, listening to everybody. Megan has a very much. When I hear her speak, okay, I can't just say Megan though. I feel like it's the same with Nye and Megan. When I
Hmm.
hear them talk, I feel like them two could have like a, I don't want to say buddy cop movie, but like a sitcom together.
Hmm.
I feel like they both just came out of a sitcom and sat down and just started role playing one day. And you were talking about chemistry earlier, like the whole group just has such a good chemistry, and I love listening to that. And that is such a big requirement for listening to actual play podcasts these days. It's like you don't like you can, when you listen to people talk, you can hear the gears grinding against each other. So
Hmm.
when the narrative and the motion between the players and the GM is just so smooth and like you said earlier, comedic, it's just it feels like a really well oiled machine. It's so good to hear you guys.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. And the way we came about was kind of like, I mean, I don't know if this is typical for every other podcast, but so I don't know if you know this, but I design games in my spare time, and I haven't published anything in a good while, probably a year. But
Mm-hmm.
um, one of my, I think it was my second game. It's called Dethrone the Divine,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about like if you're like American Gods, like it's that kind of game. You're a god like living an average life, or living your life, and your whole goal is to take over the gods that are sort of in control and that they're like harming the world in
Mm-hmm.
whatever way. And
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's up on itch.io.
yeah, yeah. And if you've contributed to like any of the trans rights bundles, or oh, I think it was the Texas abortion bundle as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you've contributed to those, you probably already own the game. But anyways, so I was playtesting, and I had to get a lot of playtesters together, and I sort of just threw the call out on the great side of Twitter, which is no longer so great. It's now called 10 for some reason.
It's called
Um,
what now?
it's called 10. They use a Roman
10?
numeral. I don't. I
10?
don't.
Oh, X, yeah, or whatever it is, or
I.
whatever
I'm,
Elon Musk is into these days.
I'm not calling it X. I'm calling it
X,
10. Just
10,
to be an
yeah.
ass. Yeah. But I threw the call out on there, and I got a lot of interested responses.
Mm-hmm.
And just one particular group that had Nye and Laura and um, Morgan in it at the time, like we all had really good chemistry. We all played well together, and so I was like, hey, we all like Monster of the Week, and I was like, because Megan, or not Megan, but Laura and Morgan and I were all
Mm-hmm.
fans of Althaven's uh, shows, Pest Control,
Mm-hmm.
which is now in full podcast form, available on everything. And then they had another show called Hijinks and Handlebars, which was a Kids on Bikes game, and it was a lot of fun to listen to, and we were all fans of that.
Mm-hmm.
So like Laura and Morgan and I already knew each other, and like I can't even remember. Oh, I knew Nye from another friend who had like this wild game going. It was like 15 or 20 people of just playing D&D. We were like this big like, mercenary battle company or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we just get together like once every 2 weeks and fight some big monster. I mean, that was like the majority of it, but Nye knew me from there. And so anyways, we all got together, we had good chemistry. We all knew Monster of the Week pretty well. And so I was like, hey, let's just make a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where the first season came about. There was a lot of growing pains in it, a lot of figuring things out. Like at first, like none of us knew how to edit, and we'd actually hired somebody to edit, and their computer got fried. And so,
Ooh.
yeah, so we were doing like a bunch of these, um, like one shots at the beginning, just to like keep having something put out. Like Morgan was editing and just kind of like doing a lot of like the bare essentials to it, and
Mm-hmm.
through that, like she learned how to edit, and then she became our editor for a good while, and then I picked up on it, and now I do all the editing. Um, for the most part, like I hire out some editors sometimes, just whenever life
Mm-hmm.
gets busy. But yeah, that's kind of how we got started out. I'm trying to think. In fact, if you go back and listen to those early one shots, one of them was called the Shroom Shot. We
Mm-hmm.
played um, the Chaos Grenades Shroom Goons, which is this very charming little game that's kind of like, like a blacklight poster. It's like playing as like little mushroom folk that live in the Everglades. I think they call it
Yeah.
the Neverglade in the setting. And um, you're like, you go out and adventure and you try to find supplies to bring back to help your little mushroom village.
Mm-hmm.
And we played a game in that I ran, and Megan was in that one. So at the end of season one, when Morgan expressed that she couldn't game with us anymore, she wanted to move on to other projects. Um, we were looking at a list of people to kind of become our fourth player, or our third
Mm-hmm.
player, fourth cast member, and Megan was like top of the list. And I'd
I don't
already
blame
known.
you.
Yeah, no, she's already done um other projects. Like I think she was on like a Boston by Night somewhere. I couldn't tell you where. And she does some other projects, and she's immensely talented. And so I was worried we weren't going to get her, but whenever we threw out the offer, she was like immediately like, yes, I'll do that, I can do that. And so to simulate a game, we did a oh I did a one shot just to kind of get a feel for things. And
Mm-hmm.
it cracks me up because like the character that she did for the one shot eventually became her character for season two. Like I just wanted to do a one shot that was set in the Mummy, like in Egypt. A mummy was the villain, the monster, and they were all a part of a film crew. And Laura played like this oh like this uh, stunt actress. And I can't remember who Nye played. I want to say he played an expert, but I could be wrong. And then Megan came in and played like this flake who was like always onto these conspiracies, but she worked as like the director's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow or another, like between Laura's like stunt character, like going off and wanting to do stupid stuff, and Nye's like character, who I wish I could remember what he was playing during that, but like somehow or another, she came out to be like the most responsible one of the group, which is so funny to have a flake who's trying to be the responsible one ever. But yeah, that character eventually became her season two character. And
she plays Megan plays Zelda very well for like what I would expect of that sort of character.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, what I for anybody who listening, your character is whoever the hell you want it to be. You can
Yeah.
make your character whomever, whatever you are cooking up in your mind. But when I heard, like when I first heard Zelda and how fast Megan was talking with Zelda, I was like, oh my god, I fucking love this character so much. And then I heard Lauren,
Mm-hmm. Laura.
excuse me, Laura. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
I heard Laura, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so good." And then when I heard Nye, I was like, "Oh fuck it, I'm sold." Oh man, I'm sold.
Oh yeah, they did. See, it cracks me up because those characters were also just in like another like home game one shot that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just so Sam, our producer, is like he runs the pest control podcast. And you know, I'd like to say we're good friends, but at the same time, like, you know, we're internet friends, so it's like you never
Mm-hmm.
know how close you are. But
Right.
yeah, no, he's a very near and dear person to me. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I
we
feel
were
the same way about some other people because I've been reaching out to I've been reaching out to a lot of other podcasts, and one of the people I reached out to for the Roleplay Rejects, I feel like I have become very good friends with them, and they are very near and dear to my heart as well. So I understand where you're coming from.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And but anyway, so yeah, we did this one shot and oh, it was I was doing like Trimmer, like the graboids from Trimmers was the villain in it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, oh yeah, I really enjoyed it. And Laura was playing in it as like this realtor mundane, who was semi-successful but not terribly so.
Mm-hmm.
And like she was like really working on it. And Nye was playing like this guy who was just living out of like a strip mall
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, and he was just selling like, you know, just random crap, like he was a crooked. And it cracked me up because those characters became like Tammy Joe and Eric, their characters in season 2. So it all came together really nicely because, you know, it was almost as like a prequel to the whole series.
So, out of curiosity, with kind of putting all that to the side, how did you settle on $2 creature feature to begin with?
As far as
Or
the name,
not $2, not the name of the podcast. I'm so sorry. The
oh no,
Monster of the Week. That's what it's called.
um, I had honestly like listening to the first season of Pest Control and just watching how Sam handles it. Like I just fell in love with the system. It's very, you know, it has so much flexibility, but it has just enough structure that it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't hamper you. And like it's that perfect marriage of it. And I've just loved everything that Michael Sands has done with the system and um, you know, just everything that's been added to it. Because now, like whenever I started, it was just the standard book and then the Tome of Mysteries, which came out, like the added playbooks to it. Um, and now I believe they've added the Codex of Worlds, which I have yet to see yet, but I
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to get my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they've released, um, oh, I think they call it like additional, like reinforcements or something like that. It's like 4 different playbooks that, you know, are just to help. Like it's like the hard case and the summoned and I want to say the spooktacular's in it as well. I could be wrong. And then like the Snoop and something else. I can't remember right offhand. But yeah, I just kind of sort of fell in love with it, and I've loved everything that they've come out with since then. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think around like after I got done listening to Pest Control, I jumped onto Monster Hour, which really got me into it. And oh, I know a lot of people, whenever, especially like Monster of the Week podcasters, started out listening to the Adventure Zones, like I
Mm-hmm.
think they did. a campaign in the setting, and I have yet to listen to that, and I don't know why. Like, I hear nothing but good things about it. I just, I keep getting distracted by other little things, and yeah.
I'm looking at the Monster of the Week manual right now, and I did not realize that this thing was a thick boy.
Oh
I
yeah.
had never heard. The first time I ever even heard of Monster of the Week was through your podcast.
Oh
I
really?
yeah, the very first time I even knew it existed, because I was trying to just because I was listening to a whole bunch of different podcasts at the same time, and just trying to get an understanding and get a grip of like what people were playing and doing out in the community. I'm sorry for hitting my mic so much.
No, it's
Um,
okay.
and so when I came across your thing, I was very much into the uh the display of your podcast, like the picture for your podcast. And
Oh yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm already grooving with it. And so when I heard that you were playing with Monster of the Week, I was like, I've never even what is Monster of the Week? So I ordered a book and I have it here with me. And I did not realize it was this big.
Oh yeah. It's a very thick boy.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I thought
and
that maybe this was gonna be like maybe like a 30-page book, maybe like a 20-page book or something like that. Like I thought this was like one of those more narrative driven games, but no, this is a whole ass core rule book. Excuse my language.
no, hey, it's okay. I mean, it's your show. Like, we can cuss on here, right?
Oh yes, absolutely. I curse all the time, and that's because I have a very bad potty mouth.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I teach, so I can't curse at school. So whenever I get out, I'm just a sailor. I cuss at everything. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, no, it's a very big book. I will admit that I haven't read it all the way through. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I skim it for inspiration sometimes, but um, the really nice thing about it is it's set up in a way, like, it's got like a few quick start pages that you can look at, like a keeper's guide, and there's like a hunter's guide. And if you have those pages and
Mm-hmm.
your character sheet, like, you can pretty much get away with anything in the system, or at
When
least
I
I hope so. Like, Michael Sands may be listening to this, be like, actually, that's not true. You've been doing this wrong this whole time. Which, if that's the case, please don't tell me. Just leave me in my ignorance.
just no, I'm the same way. Listen, when I run a game, I do this. All right, I look at everything that I need to know for the characters themselves,
Hmm.
and I toss everything else out to the window, like just everything into the wind, because I know for a fact that I'm not going to be able to remember it in the first place. So I set up the scene, I get my character, my player sheets and stuff like that, and I just start going through it, and my players will tell me if something happens the way it's supposed to happen. And I am perfectly happy accepting that, whether I am succeeding or failing the system, as long as my players are having fun, I am having fun.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the big thing. That's what you want.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
my first time around playing it, like, I really enjoyed it. I played it at a. It wasn't really a Comic Con. It was like just kind of a. It was an anime con, if I remember right. And
Hmm.
one of my friends had bought it because we all, like, for a while there, I was running games at conventions, and one of my friends bought it and ran a little mystery that eventually became the Garinger arc that we did in season one. Like, I
Hmm.
I, I adapted it and, like, changed it up, made it my own. But he ran the game, and, like, I didn't realize until halfway through, like, we had actual questions that we needed to ask, and, like, it was how it was set up. I didn't understand it,
Hmm.
but I, like, eventually, whenever I figured out what I was supposed to be doing, like, it was great. But um my daughter, wife, and I all played characters in that game, and if I remember right, my wife was playing. I think she was playing a hex, if I can remember right,
Hmm.
and my daughter was playing a chosen, and I was playing a divine. So it was a fun little party makeup there. Um, but it cracked me up because my daughter was quite a bit younger than she is now, and whenever we were playing, so she was probably about 9. So, we're at this, like, there's a carnival in town, and people are disappearing, and she's like, out in the corn maze sounds dangerous. I'm going to stay here in this festival and I just want to eat cotton candy. And
heck yeah.
And my divine character like saw himself like he was like her divine protector. And so, I just get this image of like this, 9-year-old girl with this big cotton candy thing. And next to her is like, supernatural, like Castiel-esque angel with also holding this big pink cotton candy thing. Like, we really need to go and stop whatever's doing this.
I love that image. Just because I'm actually imagining Castiel from Supernatural and just going, we really need to go stop this. And she's just like, but cotton candy.
But cotton candy.
Cotton candy. Oh, I'm sorry. This is one of the reasons why I love role playing so much, is because I like just imagining these scenarios and having fun with it.
Yeah, no, that's something that I always like. Whenever I come to create a character, that's something I always got to ask myself is, as a writer and as a creator, you always want to push yourself to make something new, make something different. Mm-hmm. But also there's that part of you that like, this is a freeform game, if you're doing it at home, like copyright doesn't matter as much. And it's like, I just want to play this character from this show in this setting. And I just think it would be funny. And, like I want to play Optimus Prime, but he gets dropped into the middle of, the My Little Pony universe. I think that would be a funny story.
That's something I never thought I was going to hear. I'll be honest with you. I never in my life thought that was that was going to be a word, like a sentence I'd ever hear anyone utter ever.
Well, hey, look, I've been really getting into Renegade Games Studios with their stuff, and they've released this new system. I can't recall the name of it. I want to say it's like the Renegade 20 system or something to that effect. But they're using it to adapt classic 80s kids cartoons for Hasbro. And so they've made the Power Rangers, they've made Transformers, they've made G.I. Joe, and now they've released a My Little Pony book.
Oh my goodness.
And they've released a book that tells you how to combine Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, and Transformers into one. And I'm like, throwing in My Little Pony like would not be that much different. Like I think you could definitely like smooth this over.
This is an audio pod. This is an actual play I do need to hear. If you ever just like, we need to do a one shot to fill up a space, please do that. I will absolutely listen to that. I don't care how long it is. You can do it for 4 hours. I'll listen to the whole thing.
Well, we might do that. I found the My Little Pony system, and Laura was talking about on Twitter. I can't remember how long ago it was, but I think it was over the summer. She mentioned like she found, I don't know, she was responding to a post about like kids and their imagination with toys or something like that. And she talked about how like her equestrian society of, the plastic horses had their own like government system and stuff. And so like, in Discord, I sent her the link to the My Little Pony book. And I was like, if you ever want to put that equestrian government to podcast form, I think we could do it.
And, that would be beautiful.
And she didn't say no. So, if you talk to her, you might ask her, just be like, hey, I heard you had this equestrian government society. When are we going to get this in podcast form?
Oh my God. If and when I get to talk to her, I will absolutely bring this up and just see where we can get it, because I would love to listen. I would love to hear her run one of these games.
I would love to have her run a game. She's like, of all of us, I think she's got, I don't want to say least experience, but she hasn't been playing as long as the rest of us. So, she'll GM whenever she's ready. Like I have no doubts about that. And I'm excited to, because she's a fantastic storyteller. But, if her first game's the My Little Pony game, let's rock, because it would be great.
So, if you don't mind me asking, like, do you mind if I go off on like a whole different direction with this conversation?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
How did you get into role playing in the first place?
Well, I'm from Oklahoma,
Hmm.
and there is not a ton to do out here. You know, you hunt, you fish, or you go to church. And
Hmm.
I was a church kid for a while in my teens, and I played bass at this Methodist church,
Hmm.
and I love this church because, like, you know, it was like every other Sunday we would have like a church potluck, and that's a great way to get people to come. But I was down there with I was like getting my plate, and I was eating with the guitar player who was like much older than me. Like I was friends with his kids, and he was like talking to me, and he's like, "Well, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, you should come out. The boys play it sometime, and you should really get a whole full handhold of it. You should just check it out." And so I did, and we didn't play Dungeons and Dragons. First, we played the West End Games Star Wars game,
Hmm.
which was great because I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. I loved it. Um, I always typically play a Wookiee, and
Hmm.
I have like some kind of like translator droid. Like if anybody's listening to this who knows who Lobaka is and how he had like a little translator droid on his belt, like that's what I would typically go with. But I played that and really loved it, and they were like, "Oh, this is a nice system. If you like it, you should really come whenever we play D&D." And so I did,
Hmm.
and we played 3.5 for a bit, and it always takes me forever to make a character in that game, and I don't know why. It usually takes me a while to make characters in anything, but yeah, we played that, and then I graduated high school, and my best friend um, like got into role playing as well, and we were looking around. We were kind of tired of D&D because it had just gone to fourth edition, and like fourth edition is a fine system, but like we didn't have the appreciation for it at the time.
Yeah,
And so
neither did I. Neither
yeah,
did I, because I was also sort of there between 3.5 and 4.0, or at least I joined 4.0 like right when it. I joined D&D right when 4.0 came out, but I always played 3.5, and so when I finally did play 4.0, it felt like I was playing a board game more than a role playing game.
yeah, it was very MMO like, but
Yes.
I really enjoyed it because I could play a Minotaur. Like that was the first time like a Minotaur was like a core like race, and I love Minotaurs, so like I was like, yeah, all right, fuck yeah, let's do this. Um, but yeah, we just didn't have the appreciation for 4.0 that we later would have. And we stumbled upon at Barnes and Noble, we stumbled upon Green Ronin's Mutants and Masterminds. We started
Oh,
out in
good system. Good system.
great system, but like the front load is a lot. Like
Hmm.
it's a lot of math to build a character.
It's very crunchy, as they say now.
Yeah, it's super crunchy, but also like I found it's like super crunchy, but also super flexible narrative. Like there's a
Hmm.
lot you can do with it, and um, we were not prepared to do all the math for that, and so that was also the first time I found an online character builder. Lone Wolf makes uh, a character builder for Mutants and Masterminds second and third edition, and I picked up the second edition with my friend, and I had made so many characters in that system. Like we just played it. We played the crap out of it. Like a solid 4-year campaign with different characters. We got to a point where um, like I had a binder just of like different characters
Oh
that
yeah.
yeah, like so if we had somebody who'd come in, we would treat it like Justice League Unlimited, where you have all these heroes at the Watchtower, and whoever heroes you picked were the ones that were assigned for this particular mission. And it was a lot of fun to do it that way. I really enjoyed that. But eventually, like as with most systems, like you just get tired of it, and we had some different stuff going on. My best friend like moved, and I got I we were working at the same place, and I lost my job there, and I was really like refining myself and all this stuff as you do in college.
Hmm.
Um, so for a while I was just kind of tuned out of games in general, and a buddy of mine that I met working at Walmart in the back room invited me to his house to play a cyberpunk game. Like,
Oh
he's
yeah.
like, yeah, it was the system was rewired. It's another one by the Chaos Grenade, and like it's a really nice system. Like it's a pamphlet size game, and I really
Hmm.
enjoy it. But yeah, he started out. He was like, so we have some really good good talky characters, and we have hackers, and we just need somebody to be the muscle. And I was like, muscle, build tank, can do. And so I built like this gunslinger who like had Wolverine claws, and like the first time I came in, like I cleared out a room in like 3 rounds or something like that.
Hmm. Oh, I did that in Star Wars too. That system that you were talking about, the old Star Wars system.
Yeah, the West End.
Um, uh, yeah, I had a Trandoshan Jedi, and when I joined my friends, I did pretty much the same thing. And oh god, it feels so good when you do that. You feel so cool when you get the chance to do that.
Oh yeah, that's something I really love in games, especially games that just let you sort of tank for a bit.
Hmm.
And I've always had the appreciation for it, but now as I'm older, I'm like really appreciating it and wishing more
Hmm.
games would go unbalanced like that. Like just let you like hit stuff. I know there are some people who enjoy the crunch, enjoy the fight, enjoy the progress,
Hmm.
but sometimes you just want to jump into a hack and slash and just mow down a room and just like push your way through a dungeon. Like
Hmm.
that's I wish that I could find more games that did that. And um once that's kind of how I got into making games. Is it was wow, I wish a game did this. I can't find a good one that does it, so I'm gonna do it
Oh,
myself.
better make it myself.
Yeah, yeah, cue the Thanos meme of fine, I'll do it myself.
Self, yeah. Right
Yeah.
now, a little bit behind the scenes thing. I don't know. Do you know about Magic the Gathering?
I know of it. I never got into it.
Yeah, I've been a big Magic fan since Kamigawa first came around. For anybody listening who knows Magic, that's a really long time ago. So I have always wanted to play a tabletop that uses Magic the Gathering cards instead
Hmm.
of like dice and stuff like that. You actually use decks, and your deck is basically your character sheet, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And so there is no system out there that really does that. So pretty much the same thing. I'm like, fine, I'll do it myself. And I'm currently running through something with a friend, and I just got all the equipment because I'm recording it, and I hope to actually run it as a show in the near-ish future. Probably going to be about 4 months before I see that out in the light of day. But no, I get what you're saying for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if whenever you get that out, like let me know. I don't have any magic cards, but I know people who would be very interested in a magic system.
Because I love the lore of the Magic system. I love everything about Magic. I don't particularly like what the company itself has been doing lately. I don't think a lot of people are. But
What, you don't like Pinkertons randomly showing up at YouTubers' houses to raid
nope,
their stuff and take back?
nope.
No, no. Wow,
No,
that's
no, yeah, I know. It's surprising. Right? I don't like it when they ask for a grand for a pack of cards that aren't even playable. Did you know about that?
I did not, but that does not
Oh
surprise me.
God. Yeah, they literally for the 30th anniversary, to go on a quick tangent, for the 30th anniversary, they I kid you not, put out a single pack of cards for $1,000 that was like the first set or something like that. And like you could pull a Black Lotus in it, but
Hmm.
the problem is all the cards are not legal for gameplay at all.
Oh, jeez.
So they're just proxies, and it made so many. Anyways, so I decided to take it upon myself to do something that I would have loved to have seen as a 30th anniversary thing, which is turn the narrative over to the players, and that's what I've been wanting to try to do.
And
That's really
ugh,
cool. Yeah,
yeah,
no.
I'm sorry. I'm
I
thinking
mean,
about the 30th edition thing, and it's hurting my soul a little bit.
oh
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no. That's just especially now whenever things are so like expensive anyways, and
Mm-hmm.
you have luxuries like cards. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me really miss the old days of Pogs,
Oh God, yes, thank you.
which
I just
you could still buy. You can still buy like like 30 pack for super cheap. I think like $5 on Amazon or something like that.
I'm gonna start just carrying a bunch of Pogs around me. A 33-year-old man just whipping out Pogs left and right.
I love to use it whenever I run home games of kids on bikes, because they use adversity tokens on failed rolls. You get like tokens, so I like to just like toss a pog or something like
Pog,
that.
that is so cool and clever. Oh man, that is very cool and clever, actually.
Thanks.
Um,
But
Go ahead.
yeah, you mentioned using Magic the Gathering. That reminds me of a friend of mine from another podcast, because most of my friends are podcasters.
Mm-hmm.
But the Pot of Blunders also like have done like special episodes where they like just take a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards or Magic the Gathering, and like they wait until like they start the session, like recording together, and they
Mm-hmm.
open it up and they use the cards for story prompts.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, it was a really
That is,
nice, innovative way to do it. Yeah.
yeah, that's a very creative way of doing that. See, this is why I like role playing so much. Is because I again, it's basically it is all just playing pretend as adults. For adults, it's all just coming up with a story together. But there's so many cool and different ways to tell a story with all of your friends and just enjoy a night of storytelling.
Oh yeah,
God.
I love it, and I love the absolute creativity that comes out of the community. You get
Mm-hmm.
people who just come up with the most interesting ways to play games. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, just very niche games of like, you're, I don't know, you have a girlfriend who turns into a car, and now you need to escape like this authoritative city that you're in. And the mechanics are you have to use tokens and Scrabble letters to spell something out, or something like to that effect. Like, you could definitely find something to that effect on the indie scene, and I love it. It's really great.
I That was something else I've been looking into a lot of is just the interaction with the community amongst themselves in terms of ooh, like safety is a big part of it. Like people
Mhm.
talk a lot about like people are communicating a lot more because people especially well in the tabletop community, people understand that in order to be able to tell these narrative stories, people have to kind of stick around. And if you want
Mhm.
people to stick around, you have to make them feel comfortable and safe and such and such, and which is a good thing. But also, along with all this comes the aspect of, hey, let's let's try something new. And then from that idea of saying let's try something new, let's try something different, like a whole like genre just spawns out of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I love that about it. To go back just for a sec on the
Hmm.
safety tools. Um I know there are a lot of people who have issues with that. And if anybody's listening to this for the first time, uh, let me just tell you now, if your GM doesn't want to go over safety tools or go over with what you're comfortable with in a game, leave the game. Because like, not only is that like just a red flag that they don't respect you enough, to respect like what kind of stories you want to tell. um I'll take the controversial stance and say they're not creative enough to work around the limitations that you have for a story, like things that bother you. If they have issues with that, like, just don't be at the table. um that's that's one of the things I'm kind of really passionate about, is like sticking to like the safety tools, and to know like what do your players not want to see. Because sometimes we can like lean on the same lazy tropes, and just the same things, some things that you know like don't bother us personally, but it would bothers others. And I think learning more about that gives you more perspective, and it forces you to be a little bit more creative. So I cannot stress enough, like, safety tools are such a good thing.
I actually have something I can add on to this. If you are a DM, a GM, a person who is leading the story, and you forget to ask something ahead of time, what's always a good idea is to have sort of like a backup plan, like to be able to like take like 3 steps back and then say, okay, sorry about that, and like actually address it and communicate with your players, and then proceed forward in a different manner entirely. That way, like they don't have to feel any type of way. You can just work with them and move on with the story.
Yeah, and like
Like it's so easy to just it really is very easy to tell a story and not have to include the things that might upset someone. And I know that some people are like, "Oh, I don't care about upsetting people." Well, again, you want your players to stay. You want your players to be at the table
mhm.
telling us like listening and understanding the story that you're trying to tell. And if they leave, suddenly you don't have anybody to tell that story to.
Yeah, yeah, and like I'll even say this, like I'm really big on like one of the safety tools I really love to use is the debrief. Like, if after we get done with the game, I kind of want to talk things through. Was there anything that came up during this game? Is there anything you want to say now? And I've stressed really hard about like keeping my gaming space, as taboo of this is to say, to keep it as a safe enough space that everybody feels like they can speak up, because that's what you want. And we had one of those blunders in the first season of our show. Like, we ended one of our storylines, and the players didn't like it. They didn't like how their character came off in the end, about how it ended things. And so like we went back and we re-recorded a new ending, and the new ending opened up a new character that actually ended up in season 2. That was the introduction. Like I created Arnold Friend from this, and like Laura liked Arnold Friend so much that when we got into season 2, she was talking to me about her monster having a dark master as kind of like, her flaw. And um I was like, okay, so do you want to do like a fey creature? Do you want to do, like some wizard who gave you your power? She was like, actually, remember this character from season 1? I would love it if we could make them a thing in season 2. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. And it just like spun into like this really great character who, like, I know a lot of people really like him as a villain more so than, you know, spoiler, who is the main villain.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh no! The season 2 is done. Please go listen to it. It is fantastic.
yeah, thank you. Yes. But yeah, so, people really liked Arnold Friend as a villain. And, I really, that's a little badge of pride, because, he was so close to not even being a character in anything. And, Laura asked to bring him in, and, he came about as just, from talking things out as players and finding out that what we were doing wasn't working, and it was a part of that creative stretch of like, okay, how can we fix this, how can we make this scene work?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's one of my big advices to throw out to GMs out there is, if something's not working, feel free to rewind things back. And you know
Yeah. Matter of fact, if I can recall correctly, you had a whole episode just talking about this scenario with Arnold Friend and the group, right? Like you had a whole. Was it a whole episode? It was like a mid. No, it wasn't a midpoint episode. I forget what it was called. But do you know what I'm talking about?
yeah, I think we did a cast chat, I think,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
where yeah,
precisely.
yeah, where like, we like to stop every once in a while from the main show and just kind of just talk things out, talk about our reactions to stuff, and just because having some of that talk, like behind the scenes stuff, I always enjoy listening to it, and I think the others do too. And I think people just like hearing about sometimes how the burger's made, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've never heard that, but that's how I'm gonna start addressing it from now on.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so we felt like it was a good idea to like kind of sit down and talk about how things had been, Um,
Oh yeah, you know what?
and
That's another bit of a good piece of advice. I'm sorry, my mouth is going faster than my brain is.
yeah, no,
That is another good bit of advice for GMs and players in general is to like, there you can have a session where there is actually no playing, but like just sitting down and talking.
mhm.
Like get a pizza and and like communicate with your players and be like, okay, what's working, what's not working, why do you feel this way, why do we feel that way, and if anything needs to be addressed, then talk about it like adults.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those skills that like I've used to kind of transfer over into my personal life. Because I'm a teacher outside of being doing podcast, and so the two have been building on each other. So my improv abilities from podcasting has let me like become a really good teacher in that effect of you know I can come up with like lessons on the fly or just think really well on my feet, which is super important when dealing with kids. But also, like, it's also given me the emotional intelligence to kind of pick up on when my players aren't having a good time or whenever they're struggling. And that's a skill I got from teaching, from noticing when my students are having a hard time, when I can just like stop and like go talk to them and like see what's going on. So yeah, they kind of play back on each other. But yeah, we stopped to talk about this because there were like some very hard, like most people would probably like have them as lines, I would say, that came up in our season 2 story. And so we stopped for this cast chat to kind of like talk it out. And it was kind of a us talking it out for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
As much as like
You,
we enjoy talking about it, but we felt like it was a good time to like kind of stop things and just be like, hey, this is what we were going through, this is how we feel up to now.
mhm.
um because
You
like,
know, I
oh,
I never. I'm so sorry. Do you mind if I interject real quick?
absolutely.
I never at all, like, because I'm actually about to start doing something myself with some other friends of mine, sort of like on the side for this podcast, and I never considered the idea or the thought that I would have to take in our like, how do I put this without sounding like an asshole? I never thought about the communities side of this, because you guys are more than just a group of friends playing. You are a group of friends playing for a wider audience.
Hmm.
And when you look at it like that, oh wow, I never considered that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's just like because of all the AMC shows have like the talking after each episode where they kind of unwind things, or if it's just um like because um hijinks and handlebars, which again I highly recommend, it's on YouTube. um they do episodes like that of their stream where they just kind of do cast chats where they're not playing the game, they're just talking things out. And um I know Laura and I were really big fans of those episodes because they'll it gave them a chance to like be in the chat and like be reading it and responding to it, but also to just kind of air out their feelings and their thoughts about what was going on with the story. And we really wanted to honor that, and to keep that in our own show. Whenever you're doing shows, you really like to look at what other people are doing and like pull it into your own show for a bit.
Mm-hmm. Y'all
But
doing a
yeah,
great job.
oh, thank you. But yeah, it was really weird in a sense because we usually keep a pretty far, like we like to stay ahead of the deadlines. So,
Mm-hmm.
and for season 2, we were so far ahead. We were about 6 months ahead, 6, 7 months ahead.
I remember you saying, yeah.
Yeah, and I know most shows don't do that. Most of them try to keep it about a month or a few weeks. But I'm just the type of person that I want to be safely ahead. And so we have like 6 months recorded out. um may not have be edited out that far, but we have it recorded out pretty far. And whenever that episode dropped, where um to, to not spoil anything, Mr. Friend did a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted to stop and kind of talk about that. So whenever that episode dropped, we kind of like heard the audience response to it, And we took like, I think that next weekend to record just like us talking for so long. And you know, on the editor side of things, it's pretty easy because all I got to do is just sync the audio, you know, go in and cut out where, you know, anybody burped or, you know,
Mhm.
you could hear their water bottle or whatever. And then, you know, I just put it out, you know, put our intro music and end music on it and just set it out there. So, um, yeah.
Uh, okay, we're coming up on our hour,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
I do want to say I love your music so much. I don't know where you got it from. I don't know how you decided on picking it. The intro and the outro feel so good. It is legit one of, okay, I can't say it's my favorite part of the podcast, but whenever I heard it like begin and like I was like, yeah, the podcast is beginning, and then when it ends, I'm like, no, the podcast is ending.
We've been very fortunate to have musical friends.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I can play like a good half dozen instruments. Like, you know, I know how to play bass, I can play drums. I just can't write music. I have that flaw. And so we've been very fortunate to know really good musicians. I keep going back to Pest Control and Hijinks and Handlebars. Two of the cast members on there, William White and Jonas Newhouse, are both part of Glass Beach, which is a really good band. Like, you know, so if anybody wants a good music recommendation, Glass Beach, the band, is really good. But William did our first season's music, and still like that stinger transition, like, you know, where we go to our midtro where it's, you know, it sounds so creepy and eerie, like that's all William. And for season 2, well, at the end of season 1, I had asked uh Ian, who does Shrimp and Crits, who's the keeper for them. I had asked him if he could do like a music number for like Mothman for like the theme, and I fell in love with that. And so whenever it came to season 2, I asked Ian to do our intro, and then for our outro, I asked Jason Myers, who does Memester of the Week. And I gave them both the same prompt. I said, you know, just I want to do like college rock, maybe with a little bit of a horror sense to it. And like that was like the only prompt I gave them. And the fact that they both came back with something that, you know, there's a very good bond between the intro and outro. I don't know how to explain it, but like, you know, if you I've heard some people say like, you know, it sounds like it could be like different parts of the same song.
It
Um,
could, yeah. That. I honestly thought that it was just the same song, just separated into different parts.
yeah, no, it's two different things that they both came up with, like two different 30-second clips or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And really just fell in love with that. And because we were going to decide like between the two of them, like we, you know, I would pay them both, like get them both and decide which one we were going to go with. And we just loved them both, so, you know, we put one at the beginning and one at the end. And it's worked out so well. And yeah, just really love it. I will say this, we already have our music for season 3. um I reached out to Kyle, who does the music for Monster Hour.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I told him, hey, this is what I'm looking for, you know, this is what our setting is going to be. And he's really knocked it out of the park, and I really can't wait to share it. We'll probably share it before the end of the year, but
I cannot wait. I am actually legitimately excited. I know you guys are probably gonna have to take a break between now and season 3, but I am genuinely excited as a listener of your podcast to get to season 3.
I have been politely forced to take a break because, like, you know, we've released our finale, we have an epilogue coming out, or probably by this time it's came out, and then we've got some stuff like to fill in between.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I mean, if it was for me, like, we'd have the filler stuff, and then, you know, we'd go right into season 3. But I think
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna take a little bit of a break, just to kind of, you know, get ahead on things. And um, you know, I'm almost putting like the buggy before the horse, because, we haven't like talked about our new setting. We haven't talked about the new characters or done any of the like marketing setup for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just need to be patient because I'm really excited about it. But
Oh, I'm bad about constantly working and making things happen. A matter of fact, the reason why my this one is coming out, this one will be episode 24. But before all of this, I like listeners are going to notice another big gap between the episodes coming out, and that's because like yourself, I was politely forced to step away for a while and get my stuff in order before I continued and picked all this back up.
yeah, yeah, I
I don't
understand.
know if you're like me, but I have like I used to be very bad about this. I used to have like 10 projects, 20 projects going on at once, and I've learned how to reduce that down to 5.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and so I'm working on getting a system out, 2 systems right now, to release. One of them is kind of a Street Sharks TMNT esque game.
Oh, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm
So,
excited. That's all you had to say. What?
all right. Well, whenever we play tested, I'll reach out to you for that. Does that sound okay?
Yes, please, God, I would love to talk. Like, we're getting to the hour mark, and if I let this continue on, I'm going to start rambling.
Oh yeah,
I would love that, please.
I could ramble with. So yes, so we could talk off camera about that, but it's something that I have literally been working on for 5 years, and I keep like
Oh,
changing my mind on how I want to do things, but it's getting closer to the part. Like, whenever I get paid again, I need to repay for Microsoft Office so I can get publisher back, so I can start making like pretty like character sheets and stuff. But the other thing that I'm working on is like I really like fell in love with the idea of a Powered by the Apocalypse um hack that's like the college teen like indie, like going on a college road trip or something like that. So it's going to be like something, basically it's like a John Hughes-esque system.
yeah. Is it going to be like a sort of? Is it going to be not kids on bike, but like sort of like a kids on bike thematic? Where it's
uh
like instead of kids on bikes or teens on boards, it's kids, college kids on road trips.
uh that's a really good title. I may use for that.
Have it. It
Yeah,
is all yours.
yeah, because I mean, like, road trips would be like something of it, but like, there could also just be like the entire thing just taking place at the college, or if you want to go like Mean Girls, like this would be the kind of system you could do for that. So,
Oh, I fucking love that. That is so cool.
but outside of game creation, and I know we're getting close on time,
Yeah.
I am working with some friends now on. I mentioned Renegade Games earlier. I'm working
Mhm.
on trying to get a Power Rangers podcast.
Oh God, yeah, you're saying so many nice things right now, and I want to talk about all of it. Oh man, I'm gonna have to have you back on after you do the Power Rangers podcast too, because I have to know more about that.
Oh yeah,
I
no. I yeah, and like there's gonna be a whole different cast of people for that one. So you could probably get a lot of people to talk to you on there too. So
Well, Mr. Ray, before you say another thing that's gonna drive me up a wall with excitement, where can people find you?
I am on the burning hellscape known as X. Um known as
10.
10.
No, that's
Yeah.
10.
Yeah, you can fix that one in post. At Mr_Ray_RPG. You can find me over on Blue Sky. Just look up Mr. Ray on there. At mrray.bluesky.social or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also have an itch page. It is mr-ray.itch.io.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find me on the podcast we've been talking about, $2 Creature Feature.
And I will make sure to have all those links and pretty much everything else that we've talked about down below. So anything that we've discussed, people can go find them. I've been adding them to the list as we've been talking.
All right, I can't wait.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ray, for coming on. I really do appreciate you.
Yeah, no, hey, I appreciate you calling me on. This was great.